Welcome to the Tyler Werner Show, discussing all the latest in Philadelphia sports.
And it is here once again, ladies and gentlemen, the NFL Draft here in Philadelphia this year. Kind of Christmas of the NFL, Christmas time, if you will, as we look forward to who will the Eagles take at pick number 14. And, of course, later rounds of the draft as well. Again, they got several options that they can take, any of which can improve upon positions of need for this Philadelphia Eagles team. Guy they can build with. And, of course, we got some NBA and NHL playoff action rolling on. And finally, I have some haters to address from my segment on the Aaron Hernandez suicide last week. And boy, it might get a little down and dirty here on the Tyler Werner Show.
And now, here's Tyler Werner.
And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tyler Werner Show. It is NFL Draft Week. It is finally here. Who will the Eagles be taking at pick number 14? And of course, just the other rounds in the NFL Draft in general. How will they fill this roster with the latest prospects of 2017 coming into the NFL? Things obviously start. Obviously, we the first round pick is obviously the big deal that we're looking at here. And as you go throughout the course of the weekend, the draft, it just kind of dies out. The excitement kind of wears off a little bit after the first round. And just the earlier rounds, I guess you could throw in there as well. But pick number 14, several options that the Eagles could make to improve a position of need. One of them that, to me has essentially come off the board as of today, Gary Conley, who has been accused of raping a female last night. I mean, we'll get into that in a moment here. The cornerback Gary Conley, obviously a projected first-round pick that was going to probably be somewhere in that 10 to 18 range, that mid-first-round range, where perhaps the Eagles could have taken him if they wanted to go cornerback in the first round of the draft. Well, after this comes out, you can scratch him off the list. You just can't right now. It's with these allegations just hovering over him right now. We'll get into the report in a moment. And I went over this maybe a month or so ago as well. Another guy you can't take, and I don't care what other mock draft people have. Dante Mixon. You can't. I'm sorry. No Mixon, okay? People say, see, this is the thing. People want to try to justify, or I don't know, have his back in that, the woman shouldn't have spit in his face. It doesn't. You can't hit a woman. That's the bottom line in that situation. Joe Mixon. I'm sorry. What? I feel like for some reason I call him Dante Mixon. Joe Mixon. I mean, when you have video of him striking a female, breaking her jaw in 4 places, dropping to the ground like that, you can't. And the guy, I mean, at least if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, can't take him. Can't take him in the first round, can't take him in the second round. Just whether he was initially a first round talent, you would think on paper, and he slides to the second round, it doesn't justify anything. I'll take somebody else. It's not going to make or break you. No Joe Mixon. The guy has a short fuse. He's probably, he could probably use anger management or something. Because then there's this story of him, when he ripped up a parking ticket or whatever in front of, or a flight ticket in front of a flight attendant's face or whatever. Like, just stupid stuff like that. Might have an anger problem. I don't know. I mean, I could see maybe one of the, like a smaller city taking Joe Mixon, but not Philadelphia. Come on. Or else that's going to stir up all kinds of shenanigans with the media and, other fan bases who like to rip the Philadelphia Eagles franchise. They go, oh, look at the, just like with the Michael Vick situation. We know it would be coming. No, if you're going to go running back, I mean, it looks like Dalvin Cook. I mean, it seems like he's being projected to slide. And, teams may have worries about his character issues as well. I mean, it's not like it's on tape of him breaking a woman's jaw, hitting her square like that. I mean, it's not that severe. But nevertheless, it seems like he might be sliding. And then you got Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey. Many people expect Fournette to maybe get chosen by the Panthers at number 8. Maybe McCaffrey being the second off the board. Maybe being available there for the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll go through some mock drafts, as I'm sure we all love to do right now around this time during the NFL draft. The week leading up to it especially. So, as far as running backs are concerned, Christian McCaffrey might be the guy there. Again, Dalvin Cook, his stock has seemingly dropped in recent weeks. Wide receiver. Mike Williams, Corey Davis, kind of the premier guys. And, of course, then there's John Ross, who had that 4.22 40-yard dash time at the Combine. It was just flat-out explosive. I mean, 4.22 is, that's at least in the quote-unquote underwear Olympics, that's pretty, that's pretty substantial. But then again, that kind of speed is still pretty scary speed coming into the NFL.
Oh, man!
So you kind of got that mix of three. Mike Williams, again, if he's available at 14 for the Philadelphia Eagles, I have a hard time passing him up, regardless of who else is available there. I mean, an NFL-ready wide receiver could be a stud. I know the whole idea is that, well, now the Eagles are kind of set at wide receiver for the upcoming season. And I mean, I got that. They got Alshon Jeffrey. They got Torrey Smith. Jordan Matthews in the slot. They're pretty much set. But see, there's the option there. You draft Mike Williams, then you don't necessarily need to keep both Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey next year. You don't need to re-sign them. Or at least there's not as much pressure to resign Alshon Jeffrey again. But hey, I mean, if you can, if Alshon Jeffrey is effective here, if he stays healthy, productive, and doesn't want too much money, and the Eagles have the cap suit, then hey, Mike Williams here, Alshon Jeffrey, that's a pretty good deal. And I guess, whether or not they keep Torrey Smith then, resign him, that remains to be seen. If you don't select Mike Williams or a wide receiver in this first round, then there's more pressure, I guess you could say, to retain both Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey next year. Unless maybe the Eagles then get, in next year's draft, get another wide receiver. But, it's kind of the option that they have there. But, I mean, if Mike Williams is available, I mean, it's at 14 for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's hard to pass him up. Corey Davis, another possibility. Some mock drafts, I don't know, even have him ahead of Mike Williams. But I would say Mike Williams would be the number one receiver at least in this draft. And then again, you got Speedy John Ross, who could perhaps go in the first round as well. Remains to be seen. The tight ends, I mean, I've been hearing talk about O.J. Howard. I mean, the Eagles again. Selleck, this might be it for. I mean, he took a pay cut actually. Selleck, he was actually willing to take a pay cut. I don't know how much he has left though, but anyhow. And then Zach Ertz, O.J. Howard. He's one of these guys one of these tight ends that seemingly he can't block so far. I mean, he's got size. And some are trying to refer to him as, baby Gronk or whatever, but he might be gone in the top 10 by the looks of it. So I don't know, but I wouldn't expect the Eagles. I mean, they got Ertz, obviously, who I would think is going to be even more productive this year with better wide receivers. Torrey Smith maybe stretching the field a little bit more. So, to me, it's kind of unlikely they go tight end. Offensive linemen, the Eagles are set at offensive line, as far as I'm concerned, right? So, this is one of the things. Like, if the Eagles were to take an offensive lineman, that's one of the only ways that the Eagles fans would be booing at the draft. That they would be booing at that pick. That's the only. I mean, the Eagles are fine at offensive line. So I couldn't see Howie Roseman and Joe Douglas. I couldn't see the Eagles taking an offensive lineman there. If they do, then, I guess expect some boos to come out then. After that kind of selection. Couple defensive prospects. Edge rushers, defensive linemen. I mean, you got Myles Garrett, Jonathan Allen in the mix, Solomon Thomas, Tim Williams, Derek Barnett, Taco Charlton. I mean, several options. A few of these guys probably go in the top 10. So I don't know. And then on defensive side of the ball, Jabril Peppers, of course, a diluted, urine sample certainly won't do him any favors. That's going to make him slip down the draft board a little bit. Oh,
man.
All right. Linebackers. You got Reuben Foster, Jared Davis, and again, as I just mentioned, Jabril Peppers is going to slide down now. I mean, the Eagles at linebacker, I mean, they could take a linebacker that could be a disruptive force, just like at defensive end or defensive tackle. I'd be fine with that. I mean, it's not maybe as much of a need, but it's still taking a, they still have some very good options there. Guys that can improve their defense, for sure. And then at the cornerback position. Again, we're looking at several in this first round. Marshawn Lattimore, Marlon Humphrey, Kevin King, Tre'Davious White, several options. We've been hearing them all. And of course, maybe projected to be taking, at least on a lot of mock drafts, second amongst this mix of cornerbacks, was Garyon Conley. But again, after this situation that came out today, it's looking like things have taken a bit of a turn in the other direction as far as his draft status is concerned. So here's the scoop. And this is the TMZ article. Gets a little more into detail, if you will, about the situation, the accusations here with Garyon Conley, supposedly 3 a.m. in the hotel room. Again, the old saying goes, nothing good happens or whatever at 3 a.m. or whatever. But anyhow, he was named in a police report by a woman who claims he raped her in a Cleveland hotel, but Conley adamantly denies the allegations. According to a police report filed in Cleveland and obtained by TMZ Sports, a 23-year-old white female told police that Conley violated her in a hotel suite bathroom at Wesson Hotel on April 9th. According to the report, the accuser says she met Conley in a hotel elevator around 3 a.m. and brought her back to his hotel room. She claims Conley asked her to have a foursome with another friend of his and a woman. The accuser says she declined and offered to watch the other couple have sex in the hotel room bathroom instead. A short time later, the woman says Conley unbuttoned her pants and began to have sex with her. She claims she said, "No, stop, it hurts." But he kept going until he finished. She says Conley then kicked her out of the hotel room. The woman called 911 and described her assailant as a black male who wouldn't take his sunglasses off and had an Ohio State tattoo on his left forearm. So yeah, it says the woman didn't apparently know who this was. And some people are saying like, I don't know. I mean, again, this is crazy. I don't know what you're doing at 3 a.m. and in a hotel room that you met in an elevator apparently, and I don't know. It's just me, but so anyhow, the woman says she went to a local hospital where a rape kit was administered. It just spells trouble here. I don't know, again, I don't know why this rape kit would be administered, why she wouldn't give his name or whatever if she knew who it was, if she knew it was Gary and Conley. Furthermore, an officer tried to speak with the accuser at the hospital, but she refused to do an interview. Instead, she told the cop she just wanted to go home and that her dignity was stripped from her in a matter of minutes. She refused to speak to cops after that. Now, 2 of Conley's friends who were in the hotel room were interviewed by the police, and they told cops that Conley never hooked up with the woman and that she was just mad that she got kicked out of the room. Now, one of Conley's friends said that the 2 had been lying on the bed together, but, quote, nothing happened. Okay, it's still a little odd to me. A complete stranger, and he's lying with her on the bed, but anyhow, Conley was not in the room when police arrived, and his friends said they did not know where he went. Conley's attorney spoke with Cleveland 19 and denied the allegations, calling the accusations ludicrous and ridiculous. Cops are investigating, but so far no arrests have been made and no charges have been filed. We spoke with the police to tell us that the results from the rape kit are not in at this point. The sex crimes unit is now on the case. We'll get more into this on the other side. Well, this is pretty much it. Other than that, he's just been, Conley retweeted. So the first thing you say to a girl that you meet in the elevator is, "Let's have a foursome." LOL, that doesn't even make sense. I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see. But with all that surrounding Conley, right? You can't take him there. You can't take him. You can't take him if you're the Eagles. I'm sorry. Take somebody else. We'll have several options at pick number 14 that will help you out. We don't need someone like with this hanging over them right now. All right, it is the Tyler Werner Show. We'll be back momentarily. On the other side, I want to get into. We'll get into more draft talk. I want to do, again, a little something called addressing the haters. Because, for whatever reason, I do my spiel about Aaron Hernandez last week. I kind of get some haters that want to come at me for it, for whatever reason. Even though I don't understand what exactly what was so hard to understand about things I said last week and what was the real shames behind the Aaron Hernandez suicide. All right, it's the Tyler Werner Show. We'll be right back after this. Stay tuned for more.
The champion of game day catering is the official meatball of the Tyler Werner Show, Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs.
We prepare our balls over time, and that's the essence of the preparation.
On top of that, another trademark of Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs is Brady's signature rubbing process.
When I pick balls out, to me, they're perfect. I don't want anyone touching the balls after that. I don't want anyone rubbing them. To me, those balls are perfect.
What is a concern is the texture of the balls, and again, that's the point that Tom hit on hard.
The champion of all game day catering dishes is Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs, the official meatball of the Tyler Werner Show.
Number one box office attraction, number one WWE superstar, multi-time WWE champion, Brock Lesnar.
Time to revamp your office space, eh? Looking for an interior decorator? Look no further than Brock Lesnar.
Now that's the way a real man uses a sledgehammer.
Out with the old, in with the new. Give Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman a call.
Mr. Lesnar, you're the future of interior decorator. Ellie, we're done.
What is it about good sex that makes me have to crap? Guess it's all that pumping. Pump and dump.
Pump and dump. Never stop the pumping. Always keep her satisfied. Pump and dump.
You really jarred something loose, Tiger.
And we're back on the Tyler Werner Show. And it's time to address some haters. Because again, for whatever reason, and again, there's more coming out in the last week. With the whole Aaron Hernandez suicide, and look, the guy committed first-degree murder. He's a first-degree murderer. Well, was a first-degree murderer. I'm sorry. There's no defense, really. People, just to preface this whole thing, and yet people want to defend the fact that he had, several illegal weapon charges, amongst these other things that he's guilty of doing, with obviously first-degree murder being at the top of the list. And it just boggles my mind that, like the only feedback I get, the only people that comment back to me about this, it's negative comments about things I like. I don't know. It's one of these things where it's like, I get this kind of feedback that I'm about to share, and it just gives me less hope for the human race, that kind of thing. I try not to be a pessimist when it comes to we as a people, but unfortunately some of this feedback kind of just, But here we go. Had a separate video posting of just the Aaron Hernandez segment alone, the discussion I had. The rant, I guess you could say, where, what can I say? I gave my thoughts that I thought were pretty logical and fair. And maybe I blew a gasket a bit.
Use your own balls.
Yeah. So anyways, not long after this video, a Bill Swindle on YouTube commented on this posting of this segment, and he said, why shouldn't Aaron Hernandez have had a gun or ammo? Is possession of such illegal in Connecticut? Does the Second Amendment not apply to him? Are you kidding me? And after sharing these thoughts, the thoughts that I had to him were, basically I said, why shouldn't he have had a gun or ammo? Because he didn't acquire the proper permit to get the gun or ammo. He had 5 illegal weapon charges in that case. Why shouldn't he have had a gun? That's why. Because he didn't acquire the proper permit to have that. And if is possession of such illegal in Connecticut, does the Second Amendment not apply to him? Dude, a first-degree murderer, and you're sticking up for, you're asking if his Second Amendment rights don't apply to him? What do we care about his Second Amendment rights anymore? when the guy was a freaking murderer, a first-degree murderer. Like, seriously. Like, here we go with people, like, trying to turn this into something political with Second Amendment rights. And I clearly said this in the segment last week. He shouldn't have had a gun because he didn't acquire... He had it illegally. He was guilty of 5 charges of illegally having that, the weaponry and the ammunition he had. And look, I'm not saying responsible American citizens that are sane don't have a right to it. No, I'm for that. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of insane people out there, unfortunately, that may have weaponry when they shouldn't and shouldn't be allowed to. And hey, sometimes responsible... I mean, I hope the idea is not to, but hope a responsible gun owner may have to defend himself against, a first-degree murderer. Unfortunately, I'm just for psychopaths to not have that kind of weaponry, to not illegally have weapons like that. That's all I'm saying. So after sharing these thoughts and raising these questions to Bill, just minutes later, I noticed that he deleted his comment on the video, and I guess so the grilling I gave him could not be seen anymore, I guess. I don't know. This is just, again, it's base logic. And he just, I don't know. Does the Second Amendment not apply? Dude, he's a first-degree murderer, and he didn't have the proper permission to carry the weapons that he had and the ammunition. All right, then, oh boy, it gets even better. Then a Blair Thompson checked in on the same video on the Aaron Hernandez segment. He responded with a very shallow, lame as F expletive observations. That's all he said. That's all he put. Like, come on. That's just, come on. Flat out hater right there. That's all that is when somebody does that on a video.
Go ahead, hater.
So I said, all right, well, let's hear your observations. And not ones shared from the confines of your keyboard, like typical internet haters do. I'm interested in hearing your podcast/verbal discussion on this. Must be very misguided based on your shallow and hateful comment on mine. And just for the record, this Blair Thompson, he's one of those YouTubers who has no profile picture or videos whatsoever on their channel as of yet. And supposedly their only activity on YouTube is to post smarky comments like that and not bring any substance whatsoever to the table. So then, okay. Then he responded with actually a little bit of substance, but incorporated in it was just disrespect and just being out of line, which I wasn't out of line, but this is what he said. Dude, you're just effing ignorant, man. I'm trying, and I'm, I guess trying to censor this. You did no research on the guy other than read MSM articles, then proceed to just call him names. Well, dude, he's a first-degree murderer. Would you care if I'm calling him an insano or a psychopath or whatever? He's a first-degree murderer. Who cares? It's not like I called him anything that was like, expletive filled like what you're giving me here. Well, I'm just sharing fair opinions. He said, I think what the guy did was heinous as bleep. But the truth is, he was a person with flaws. Dude, come on. Spare me. That's such a cliche. When these criminals do these insane things, he was just a person with flaws. Come on. We're all people with flaws. When you commit first-degree murder, you have more. You're more than just a person with flaws. Come on, that's a cliche, if I ever heard one. The real shame, and this is where this is where he kind of has some substance. The real shame of the situation is that Hernandez chose to stay inside of a toxic gang culture. If you understood that, you'd know blood in, blood out. Or basically, Aaron Hernandez believed he had to be loyal to his local street gang for the rest of his life, because it's a, in quotations, lifetime, like his latest tat, commitment. Maybe if he had landed anywhere other than New England, he'd have had a shot at removing himself from that past. But it just wasn't to be. Oh, is that a little shot at the New England Patriots there?
Well, as you know, I'm not on Snapface and all that.
Bill Belichick? No. But no, this... this is where yeah. It's a shame that he stayed in a toxic gang culture. And I'll go on then I'll share my response after I get through the rest of his. You just sound like a guy who has little life experience. You come across as extremely half-witted and only know how to condemn something that you don't understand. And then, I guess a few minutes later, he decided to add in another separate reply, you sound nasally as F, too. I'd be happy to talk with you to counter all your lame-ass points. Now, come on, like, seriously? You're going to complain? Sound nasally as F? That's funny.
Man's got to know his limitations.
Alright. So he actually came... Alright, well, here's what I said. Here's what... And you know, I was understanding. I kept my cool. Here's what I said. Okay, then. If you claim I'm ignorant, have little life experience, am half-witted, and whatever you want to claim about my take on the situation, then maybe I'm just lucky to have been raised in a stable household, and by the same token, have chosen to stay out of that kind of trouble. So yes, I totally agree that it's also a shame he chose to stay in that culture. Because again, between what I've said and what you're saying, that's all what has ultimately led to his heinous acts, and the poor 4-year-old daughter whose biological father is a first-degree murderer. However, I'd highlight that if we're going to agree staying in a toxic gang culture is also a shame in the situation, isn't choosing to get involved with one a shame we should also bring up in the first place? Understanding its blood in, blood out formula. Again, maybe I'm very fortunate to have been steered in a direction growing up to make decisions that have greatly reduced the trouble I could have gotten in, ultimately leaving me with, quote, little life experience in that regard. I'm just advocating that people don't become first-degree murderers, and stemming from what you've mentioned, that we as a society recognize the danger of toxic gang cultures and steer people away from involvement in them. Based from the meat of your input on the issue itself, which I tip my cap to, I believe we're in much agreement here, even though I didn't bring up the same details you did. I just don't understand then why you would come at me with such hateful demeanor or whatever. With such a hateful demeanor to the point that you felt a need to rip how nasally I apparently sound. And that was basically, that was Saturday. I haven't, so maybe that's the end of it. Thank God. Because again, like, look, I got it. It's a shame he was in this gang-like culture. I got it. It's a shame. It's also a shame that he chose to involve himself in that. Like, I'm sorry. It's almost as if it comes off like you're trying to defend a first-degree murder. Yeah, maybe I have a little, you know, I just consider myself lucky. The way I've been raised. But you know what? I choose to be an individual. I don't get involved with it. I choose not to be a follower. I'm just me, you know? I don't, you know, whether it's, you know, him being in a gang or whatever, that's the reason. Well, don't choose to get involved then. And if you didn't have the best upbringing, look, I'm just calling for us all then to raise children to become adults who don't involve themselves in that kind of behavior where weapons are illegally being attained and where first-degree murder is committed. I'm just advocating we don't solve our problems like that. I know it's a very difficult very difficult subject. Because there are idiots out there. There are psychopaths out there. And again, I'm just advocating that those are the guys that don't get weapons. You know, that's all I'm saying. And the fact that he just kind of, like Blair Thompson here, just kind of, you know, sweeps under the rug that the 4-year-old daughter, like, just kind of like glosses over this whole first, and is just trying to like make it like look. Like, make excuses almost for an Aaron Hernandez, it sounds like. Look, I got him. Yeah. I got the whole... He was in a gang called... It's blood in, blood out, like he said. I got that. But, I'm sorry. The decision to involve yourself in that kind of gang-like culture just can't be made. That's the bottom line. And if you want to call me ignorant, you want to think I did no research on... I read the case. Like, come on. Read the cases. And again, read them and then proceed to just call them names. I sound like a guy who has little life experience. I come across as extremely half-witted and only know how to condemn something that I don't understand. Dude. I'm condemning first-degree murder. Any sane human being should be, like, right in line here. Condemning this and acknowledging that really it's not a shame that Aaron Hernandez is dead and committed suicide. It's really not a shame at all. But the fact that he committed suicide has garnered this attention, has garnered this some of these false perceptions, it seems. That, oh man, it's a shame that his 4-year-old daughter just lost her dad to suicide. No, that's really not a shame. Because again, in the first place, it's that Aaron Hernandez committed first-degree murder. That's the real shame. That her father in the first place was a first-degree murderer. And that she has to carry that with her. That's a damn shame. And it's a shame if she doesn't have a proper father figure. That's all I'm saying. I mean, at the end, you could make the case. I mean, a single parent can also effectively raise a child. I'm not going to rule that out. But ideally, it certainly helps not to, to not have to raise a kid alone, doesn't it? I mean, then again, I guess I don't have kids, so I guess I don't understand. I have little life experience. Well, if that's the case, maybe that's just because I make choices to avoid these kinds of situations. Like, it's as simple as that. I don't know what else to say. Maybe I'd have more life if I made stupid decisions like that, like he did. Like, psychopathic decisions. And I don't care. There's these articles that are these defenses coming out. Like, oh, he was smoking K2 marijuana supposedly before he committed suicide. It was messing with his head. That's why he committed suicide. And he committed suicide because then he gets some money from the Patriots that would void, the case would be voided or whatever. He technically would not go down. Now it's he murdered to hide his bisexuality or whatever. Like, dude, I don't care. And I'm not even going to really get into it. Because what it all boils down to, ladies and gentlemen, Blair Thompson and whoever else wants to defend Aaron Hernandez, first-degree murderers needed, like we can't have them in this world. That's all it boils down to. There's nothing to defend it. There's no reason to defend it. I understand their situation, but this is nothing like that. And you know what? This goes into the whole Joe Mixon thing. It's not right to crack a woman in the jaw just because she spits in you or whatever, just because she shoves you. You don't do it. And you most certainly don't commit first-degree murder. I'm sorry. To me, life's too short. This world, to me, there's just no place for it. And again, I understand that unfortunately, there are idiots out there. And it may be necessary for you to defend yourself. There's a difference. Aaron Hernandez's situation, it's nothing like that at all. Joe Mixon, nothing like that at all. She didn't pull a knife on him and go to stab him. That's a different story. Then maybe you got to try to detain her. But for no legitimate reason do you just crack a woman in the jaw like that. That's absolutely ridiculous. And then finally on the other, actually let me go on the full podcast that I posted. There's an Eric Malign who commented, "Who cares about Hernandez? Stay on topic," or whatever. That's what he had to say. Well, like I said, a lot of people do apparently care about the Hernandez situation, so the topic wasn't ignored and was gotten out of the way on the show last week early. Like, look, I'm all about the Eagles talk, but it was a major topic. And I thought there were some people out there that were steering it in the wrong direction and had misguided thinking towards it. When we want to, like, oh man, poor Aaron Hernandez. Like, what are we saying poor Aaron Hernandez for? Come on. This world needs less psychopaths, needs less first-degree murderers. I'm sorry, this is the way it is. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say. I don't know how else to say it. It's just base logic. And it's almost like some people forgot about that. I don't know. I just don't know sometimes. All right, that's that. But again, it goes back to the whole Mixon thing too, and how some guys are almost like trying to defend Mixon and what he did. It's not that bad. Like, the woman shoved him and spit it. What? Like, dude, who cares? He's twice her weight and everything. You're like, come on. There's no reason. The guy, again, Mixon, he's got a short fuse. It's like he's got anger issues, and I don't care. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, off the street, I'm not taking him here right now. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. He's got some issues to solve. All right, so went a little long. Got to take a deep breath here on the Tyler Werner Show, and we'll come back. It's it's draft week, and I was again that Hernandez situation, which again we continue to have new layers come out about it and everything, but just the way it stirred people, it's like. And then haters want to come at me with silly things. It's just, I mean, some maybe, yeah. Some things that do make sense and are legitimate, but for the most part, just hate. I don't get it. And again, it falls in line with the Joe Mixon situation. I'm sorry, a guy that has a short fuse like that could be a loose cannon here, the Philadelphia Eagles franchise. I don't want that. There are plenty of other options. You'll be fine without Mixon. You don't need to take him in the 2nd round if he's there for you. Like, you really don't. All right, it is the Tyler Werner Show, ladies and gentlemen. Draft Week edition. We'll be right back after this.
I'll have some skirt steak, some brisket, little piece of that New York steak, a couple of them steak fingers, and a burger.
You've known for a long time that you were going to have to get real about fat or stay real fat. It didn't get that way by accident or by some outsider's doing.
Put some macaroni and cheese on there, too. Is there any chicken fried steak left?
Your weight just keeps creeping up or maybe even shooting sky high.
3 slices of pecan pie and 2 cups of coffee.
You have a decision to make. You know it, and so do I.
Yes, all right.
You need prescription diet pills or other diet aids to lose weight.
Okay, Rocco, pretend I'm the girl that you want to ask out on a date.
How about maybe you and I, maybe we go out together, get something to eat, I don't know, maybe laugh a little bit, who knows, you know? I don't know, would you like to maybe, you want me to go out together? What do you think? Would you like to?
You need to make more eye contact, and you sound way too nervous.
You want to hear me say it? You want to break me down? All right, I'm afraid. For the first time in my life, I'm afraid.
Having a tough time asking out ladies? You need to see Clubber Lang for a lesson.
Hey, woman. Hey, woman. I bet you stay up late every night dreaming you had a real man, don't you? I'll tell you what. Bring your pretty little self over to my apartment tonight, and I'll show you a real man.
Build confidence with the ladies like never before with Clubber Lang's dating services. The most highly recommended in all of the Delaware Valley.
I am ranked number 1. 1! That means I'm the best.
It is the Tyler Werner Show. We're back. Hope I don't sound too nasally or anything out there for anybody that has a problem with nasally sounding voices. If you don't, so I guess just don't listen. But anyhow, the NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs for that matter. Meanwhile, we have the NFL draft coming up. We have playoff action going on for these other sports, and yeah, it's one of those things. The draft just kind of takes over right now from those playoffs, early rounds of the NHL and NBA playoffs. But Cleveland, the sweeping of the Indiana Pacers 4-0. LeBron just kind of dominating. Could they perhaps be primed to maybe get another championship this year? Maybe a rematch against the Golden State Warriors in the finals? Who knows?
Oh, man!
But LeBron in full form right now. Of course, the Golden State Warriors themselves also sweeping their first round series against the Portland Trail Blazers, win the last one by 25 points, 128-103. So that was that pretty much took care of that. Houston Rockets win their series 4-1, beating the Thunder 105-99. Third seed against the 6th seed there. So their Rockets are moving on once again. Meanwhile, yesterday the San Antonio Spurs yesterday take a 3-2 lead in the series against the Grizzlies, 116-103. Second and 7th seed there. So the Spurs one more win away from moving on. Would have thought maybe it would have been a little more one-sided than being in a 3-2 situation, but it happens. Game 5, the Utah Jazz in that series won 96-92 against the Clippers. So last night, so they're up 3-2. And then back over in the Eastern Conference, Hawks and Wizards are tied at 2 apiece. Let's see what happens tonight, Wednesday night, 6 p.m. The Chicago Bulls and the Celtics, they're also tied at 2-2. They play at 8:30 tonight. We'll see what happens then. And Toronto, Game 6, Thursday night at 7 p.m. Toronto's leading against the Bucks 3-2. And again, this Spurs and Grizzlies, they also face each other tomorrow as the Spurs lead 3-2. And again, some of these games, they take place tonight. By the time the Tyler Werner Show is posted tomorrow, those results will already be apparent. But as of this podcast recording, that's where we're at right now. Then you go over to the NHL, and it's kind of odd to say, but how about those Nashville Predators sweeping the Chicago Blackhawks, the Eastern Conference winners, at least by standings, having the most points in the conference, if I'm not mistaken. Once again, Predators taking them down 4-0 with a 4-1 win. Who knows what happened there with the Chicago Blackhawks, but oh my God! Yeah, I'm sure Steve Coates is excited about that. Game 5 between the San Jose Sharks and the Edmonton Oilers was a 4-3 overtime victory by the Oilers. And then in Game 6, the Oilers took down the Sharks 3-1. Edmonton winning that series 4-2 over in the West. St. Louis, a near sweeping of the Minnesota Wild as they beat them 4-1 in the series on Saturday night, getting a 4-3 series clinching victory against the Minnesota Wild in overtime. The New York Rangers taking care of the Canadiens. Kind of an underdog situation there for them. They beat the Canadiens 4-2 in that series. Ottawa wins their series against the Bruins 4-2, taking care of them. Pittsburgh Penguins had their way with the Blue Jackets, taking them down 4-1. Anaheim swept the Flames in a 4-0 series. So not many of these series really competitive at all. And finally, we had the Washington Capitals taking care of the Maple Leafs 4-2 in that series, with an overtime win on Sunday. And that pretty much took care of round 1. Again, none of these series, kind of surprisingly going to a 4-3 here in the first round. We'll see what happens in the second round, as that begins tonight. Predators and the Blues, Oilers and the Ducks, Rangers and the Senators tomorrow, and the Penguins and the Capitals tomorrow as well. So we've got some good series ahead of us, I think. It's all right. That takes care of things outside of the NFL draft. As far as playoff action is concerned in the NHL and the NBA, we are looking forward, very much so, to the NFL draft. Of course, the Phillies tonight taking on the Miami Marlins. Put a couple wins together, for sure. I mean, they swept the Braves and fared pretty well against the Mets in the past week. So, between those two series, I'm kind of surprised to say the Phillies have won 5 out of 6 of those games. So, putting some wins together. How about that?
Oh, man!
Phillies baseball action. All right. So we shall get back to the draft here. The latest ESPN NFL Nation mock draft. We've for those reading the latest mock drafts, here's one that, and this factors in the Gary and Conley situation. The rape allegations, and again, it's unfortunate, but when it comes to the draft, you're in this kind of situation, unfortunately, you're guilty until proven innocent. I know it's kind of backwards, but that's how it is. The risk here of taking a guy that could be going to jail, you just can't take Conley if you're the Eagles. That's the bottom line. There's not enough time since this situation has come out to really sort through it all. You just can't take him. Not enough time to sift through it and take him knowing that he's innocent, knowing that it's the right choice. Unfortunately, you can't. So scratch him off the board at cornerback. Let's go through here. NFL Nation Round 1 mock draft. The latest. Cleveland Browns taking defensive end Myles Garrett. Number 2, San Francisco 49ers taking Solomon Thomas, defensive end out of Stanford. Chicago Bears, Jamal Adams, safety at number 3. The Jacksonville Jaguars taking running back Leonard Fournette. There's a running back off the board. The Tennessee Titans taking defensive lineman Jonathan Allen. The Jets at 6 taking Marshawn Lattimore. Probably the highest ranked cornerback, coming off of the board here. The Los Angeles Chargers, Malik Hooker, safety out of Ohio State. Number 8, Carolina Panthers taking Christian McCaffrey, running back out of Stanford, off the board. At number 9, Cincinnati Bengals, Reuben Foster, inside linebacker, off the board. Buffalo Bills at number 10 taking O.J. Howard, the tight end we were talking about earlier. New Orleans Saints at number 11 taking Derek Barnett, defensive end out of Tennessee. Selection number 12, the Cleveland Browns, once again, taking quarterback Mitchell Trubisky out of North Carolina. You know, if that be the case, have a nice career. We all know how that feels if you're a quarterback to end up there. We kind of see what happens. But no, I'm sorry. That's a low blow at the Browns. 13, the Arizona Cardinals, Hassan Reddick, linebacker out of Temple, going. And then for the Philadelphia Eagles at number 14, wide receiver John Ross out of Washington. Not Mike Williams, but the speedy John Ross. Now, this mock draft has Mike Williams sliding to number 18 to the Tennessee Titans. Now, if that were the case, Titans kind of a little loaded up on offense there. Another weapon for Marcus Mariota. The 4-2-20, and this is from Tim McManus, Eagles beat reporter. Eagles Executive Vice President of Football Operations, Howie Roseman, has been looking for a big-time burner ever since Chip Kelly got rid of Deshaun Jackson.
I like vanilla and chocolate.
Corner is an absolute need, and the Eagles will be looking there at a pass rusher as well. But Ross's 4.22 40-yard dash speed is simply too good to pass up. Interesting. Now, you got Torrey Smith in there, who's kind of supposed to be the speed guy right now, who's supposed to be the guy that stretches the field. Again, on a short-term deal. And is now in his, he's 29 now, I believe. So, you wonder how John Ross could be the guy that maybe takes that spot in the long run, if that's the direction the Eagles go. I'm just thinking all around, Mike Williams at number 14, if he's available, he is the best selection to make. He's the most talented player on the board if he is available at 14. That's my philosophy, theory. I mean, I guess if you're specifically targeting a guy with that kind of speed, I guess, you can make a case there for John Ross. But I mean, overall, I would say Mike Williams would be the best overall selection there. Yeah, that's just me. Let's see. Where is the latest from Mel Kiper? What does he have? There's the McShay Kiper alternating, the mock draft that has the Steelers going offense in rounds 1 to 2, yada yada. Let's see. Well, that's just specifically with the Steelers. I don't know, but that would be because there's other mock drafts out there that I've seen that don't even have John Ross going in the first round. Here's one from PhillyVoice.com. And the best, according to Mel Kiper Jr., the best and worst case scenarios for the Philadelphia Eagles. In the first 13 picks, a lot can happen. And again, with the Eagles and all their positions of need, well, I mean, you kind of boil it down to running back, cornerback, maybe wide receiver for long term, maybe defensive end. It makes that 14th pick difficult. All it takes is one player to start falling, or one wild out of the blue pick to send the whole thing into chaos. But no matter what happens before, Howie Roseman and Joe Douglas should be in a great position to improve their roster when they're placed on the clock sometime around 10 p.m. on Thursday night. Now, according to Mel Kiper Jr., the best way to do that would be by drafting the best cornerback available. And again, this takes Conley off the board. He said, quote, I think just looking at what they did in free agency, then with the trade for Jernigan and all that, you think about where they are right now as a football team, and it would be whoever they deem the best corner. That, no matter how likely you think, is just one of the ways it could go down. So obviously Christian McCaffrey would be the best scenario if he were to somehow be available. But again, a lot of the one mock draft I just went over had McCaffrey being off the board there well before then. He's a running back out of Stanford, but he can wear a lot of hats. Slot receiver, wide receiver, punt, / kick returner, all that. Yeah, I mean, if McCaffrey's available, I mean, you could make a great case to pick him. I'm just saying, like Mike Williams, if he's available, best overall talent. But if the Eagles, again, say they re-sign Alshon Jeffrey, keep him here next year, and Torrey Smith, then the need for Mike Williams is not as pertinent. And not to mention, they can, in the future, they can always draft a young wide receiver down the road. So that maybe when Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith are a little older in a few years, and then you got a younger guy that can step in. So again, I mean, the way I look at it, the Eagles could go any which way here. Best wide receiver, best cornerback available, best running back available, or a defensive talent that can be a difference maker, defensive end, linebacker, and satisfied. You can go any which way there. And I think that's really what it all boils down to, and I'm looking forward to who they choose. We'll talk about it next week on the Tyler Werner Show, as we start to wrap things up here, because it's the draft. I mean, what more can you say? We went, of course, last week on the Tyler Werner Show. We went over the schedule, preliminary predictions. I had 9-7, which to me ultimately results in no playoffs. They'll be in contention, but ultimately, I don't think 9-7 is going to be enough in this division to get a wild card spot. I see the Giants, the Cowboys kind of being right there around 11-5, but I will say this: in the NFC, I think the NFC is kind of wide open this year. And I guess you could kind of say it was sort of last year. But it's not like the AFC, where I'm like wondering, who the hell's going to take down the Patriots this year? That's what comes to mind when I think of the AFC.
No days off!
Whereas the NFC, the Falcons be in the mix again. I could see the Panthers coming back up this year, being a decent team. Seahawks being the mix as they usually are. The Packers, the Cowboys, the Giants. But again, I'm not sure if any of those teams separate themselves, into that 13 win category. I'm not sure. I have a hard time coming up with somebody who's going to win 12 games even. Maybe one of those, maybe the Packers, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Falcons, maybe one of those teams gets to 12 wins, but I don't think there's going to be much separation like we saw last year with the Patriots winning 14 games. I don't see that kind of thing. And if the Eagles, if they're able to steal a game, you never know. If you get in the wild card spot, what can happen? I look forward to seeing how the Eagles address the team with this draft, which direction they go with that first pick, seeing who they get in the second round, and we'll go from there. And maybe we'll look into the schedule. Maybe we'll take another look into the schedule again for fun. And see how we feel after the draft in Philadelphia. Should be a lot of fun. If anybody's going to be down there at the draft, share your thoughts, share your experiences as they happen down at the NFL draft. And we'll discuss next week on the Tyler Werner Show the selections that the Eagles make. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk to you next week on the Tyler Werner Show.